Today we are going to be fixing the UFC pound for pound list in a tier list format. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with too many YouTube channels, and welcome back to another brand new tier list video. Again, like I just said, this tier list video is going to be taking a look at every single pound for pound fighter in the UFC right now, and we're going to be fixing them, in my opinion, where their rankings should be, because I would imagine I'm going to shuffle these guys around a little bit because, of course, we'll go through their placements as I talk about the fighters, and I'd love to know what you guys think about afterwards. Of course, this is all my opinion, and the way we're going to be looking at this is, what if all of these fighters were the same size in the same weight class? That's kind of like the point of the pound for pound system, right? Which is the best fighter overall? We're going to be talking about that today. Let's get into the tier list, guys. Thank you so much for coming in. Starting off with Yuri Prochazka, and right now Yuri sits at number 10 on the pound for pound list, but where are we going to put him in a tier list? I believe Yuri is one of those fighters who, because of his style, he's so powerful, he's so unorthodox in his striking, he's a wild guy, he can take a fight to absolutely anybody. Right now, I'm sure there's people that could beat Yuri Prochazka. We've seen with Glover Teixeira, he should have, if he didn't make the mistake with the guillotine, he was on his way to winning that fight. I might shuffle these guys around, but for right now, I'm going to put Yuri Prochazka into the B tier here. And something to keep in mind, guys, we have a D tier here. Of course, all of these fighters on this list is a pound for pound great and amazing fighter. So if a fighter ends up in the D tier, that does not mean they're a bad fighter whatsoever. It's just comparing them to the rest of the people on this list. Now let's talk Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier, one of those fighters who just constantly keeps winning, arguably one of the best boxers in the UFC. But now, this makes me think, what if Dustin Poirier and Yuri Prochazka were to end up fighting each other? Who would take the win? I feel like if these guys were the same size, Dustin Poirier would be able to, let's say if he were to rock Jiri and hurt Jiri, I feel like Dustin Poirier is one of those guys who would smell blood and just keep going and going and going and go for the finish. But then Yuri's one of those guys who could just land an elbow and just knock Poirier out on the way. I believe Dustin Poirier is better than Yuri Prochazka. We just haven't seen enough of Yuri. That's the big problem, you know what I mean? So I'm going to put Dustin Poirier in front of Yuri Prochazka. Also in the B tier, though, Dustin Poirier still hasn't become a champion yet. Now, speaking of champions, Charles Oliveira. Where are we going to put Charles Oliveira? So I want to throw him into the S tier, but I don't know. I might shuffle these guys around like I was saying, guys. Charles Oliveira is one of those guys, like I was talking about with Jiri. He's capable of winning every fight, but he has a skill set, a masterclass skill set, absolutely anywhere. You want to talk Muay Thai, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu. I guess you could say his wrestling is his weak spot, but even then, he doesn't have any weak spots, Charles Oliveira. He is well deserving of being on the pound for pound list. That's why I'm putting Charles Oliveira. For now, I'm going to put him in the A tier. He is very beatable. While he's been on an absolute tear lately, he is beatable. Now, I don't have too much to say about this guy. Alexander the Great Volkanovski. If there was an SS tier, that's where he would go. I believe that Alexander Volkanovski, and if you guys have watched the channel, I believe he is the greatest fighter of all time in history of the UFC, in the history of MMA. I believe he is the all-time GOAT. Nobody is going to be going above Alexander Volkanovski. The dude is good everywhere. The dude seems absolutely unbeatable. He beat Islam Makhachev, in my opinion. That was an absolute robbery. Now, Brandon Moreno. We've seen him down and out, and we've seen him have spectacular performances. Just lost the title, but even then, he was having an absolutely fantastic performance. I actually don't mind the C tier for Brandon Moreno. He hasn't fought the same level of competition as a lot of the other guys here, but he is still a very, very solid champion. I like Brandon Moreno. I think I'm going to throw him in the C tier. Now, Israel Adesanya. Where are we going to throw Israel Adesanya? I believe he's better than both Yuri and Dustin Poirier. Charles Oliveira. Could you imagine if these two were the same size? Oliveira and Israel Adesanya, excuse me. That would be an incredible fight. Israel Adesanya is so good at what he does, and he's so good at keeping his opponents at bay. I feel like Charles Oliveira could play that game with him, if these guys were the same size. However, I do believe that Charles Oliveira is a better fighter than Israel Adesanya. Does that make sense? He has more skills. He can win in better ways. He's looked more dominant than Israel Adesanya has. I like that ranking, but I think Izzy's definitely better than Poirier, Yuri, and Moreno. Now, Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards is a very good win streak. He's looked fantastic in his career so far. Just did the incredible knockout to Kamaru Usman, then won another fight after that. Here's the problem, though. Leon Edwards hasn't had the opportunity to really prove himself in those dogfights. He hasn't had the opportunity to prove himself against guys like Covington or Chimaev. He keeps saying yes to these fights, but it's just bad luck that's been keeping him away. From what we've seen with Leon Edwards so far, this is tough, man. Actually, to be honest with you, I'm going to put Leon Edwards at the top of C tier right now. Because if I, like, thinking about like everybody pound for pound, if everybody was the same size, I wouldn't pick him over Yuri or Dustin Poirier. I can see a path to victory with Dustin Poirier, but I think Yuri would be able to beat him. You know, Leon Edwards is really, really good everywhere, okay? Really good. It's just he needs to have a more dominant title run and have more matchups against high-level guys for me to really redo this ranking. You know what I mean? So right now, I think I'm okay with Leon Edwards being where he is. Now, Jamal Hill, very, very underrated and unappreciated fighter. This is tough. He is probably, is he the least experienced champion besides Alex Pereira that we've had? He's looked so good in so many fights, but we have seen him have a couple hiccups in his performances. His performances are not flawless. He has very, very good boxing, very good knockout power. Looks a little wonky in there sometimes and makes it work. I'm going to actually throw him behind Leon Edwards right now. Oh, man. What about Moreno? Actually, to be honest with you guys, I love Jamal Hill. I'm a really big Jamal Hill fan. But I think I'm going to put him behind Moreno. It's just the experience for me, man. It's crazy that we're talking about a guy with this much experience and he's on the pound for pound list. He's a great fighter, man. He is a really, really good fighter. Unfortunately, though, I think Yuri is going to put an absolute beating on him. Now, Max Holloway. Where are we going to throw Max Holloway? We've seen him have hiccups. He's pretty much only had hiccups to Alexander Volkanovski. Unfortunately, he didn't look good in that fight. But Max Holloway, as his career has progressed, has gotten better and better. We see the same thing with Charles Oliveira. Now, Max Holloway, I think, actually, I'm going to throw him behind Dustin Poirier, and that makes sense because these two fought each other, but even then, Max had his moments in the boxing, but then Dustin Poirier's power really had a problem with Max Holloway, so that's where it's a little difficult to make these fights and talk about these fights as if everybody was the same size, because, like, maybe if Max was just a little bit bigger, let's say everybody was 155 pounds, will Dustin Poirier's power still affect Holloway? I would imagine so, but still, I think I like that for Max Holloway. I would put him in front of Yuri. It's crazy that I'm putting some of these fighters in front of champions. You know what I mean? I'd love to know what you guys think about this afterwards. Now, John Jones. Tough for me to say because I believe John Jones should be eliminated from the pound for pound list because of his PED use. But I don't know if I want to go that route for this video. I'm not going to, just for the sake of the video. I'm going to ignore all of that. I think he should be eliminated. I don't think he should count because all of these fighters have not had, besides like maybe Israel Adesanya. I know there's some controversy there, but at the end of the day, he's never failed a test. John Jones, though, got to throw him in S tier behind Alexander Volkanovski. I believe Alexander Volkanovski, again, is the greatest of all time, not John Jones. And I'm not even saying that because of John Jones' PED use. I believe that Alex, in general, period, is the greatest of all time. Now, Islam Makhachev kind of have the Jamal Hill problem here, where he's the champion, but he doesn't have nearly as much experience. He's fought in some really good guys, but the high-level fights just have not been there. But in those high-level fights, he has shined and performed and looked amazing. He had a really close fight with Alexander Volkanovski, who, in my opinion, again, is the greatest fighter of all time. Islam Makhachev, obviously, look what he did to Oliveira. I got to throw him in top of A tier. That's where I'm going to put him. We've seen him. He's beatable. I think these two really stand out apart from a guy like Islam Makhachev. But Makhachev certainly has the ability to get into the S tier eventually. Now, Kamaru Usman. This is really tough for me because Kamaru Usman has been so great and so dominant, but now he's just a little bit older. So the way I'm going to look at this tier list, guys, in my opinion, is right now. Not in their primes. I could redo this eventually with everybody in their primes. Thankfully, most fighters are somewhere around near their prime, except maybe John Jones is exiting his prime. Same with Israel Adesanya. Maybe Max Holloway is too. But as of right now, where do I put Kamaru Usman? Unfortunately, I do believe that Kamaru Usman has lost a step. If this is the Kamaru Usman before the Leon Edwards fights like a few years ago, I would actually probably throw him right behind either behind or in front of Oliveira in the A tier. But Kamaru Usman right now, I do believe, has lost a step. If he fights Chimaev, I think he's going to lose. I don't know. He's got to go behind Leon Edwards, right? Yeah, he definitely has to. Actually, guys, Moreno has looked really, really good in his last fight. Guys, unfortunately, Kamaru Usman with his past two performances just have been not impressive at all. I'm going to put him in the C tier. That's where I believe he is right now. But of course, he was a solid A tier. I just do believe he's lost a step. Hopefully, he proves me wrong. Now, Aljamain Sterling. Where are we going to throw Aljamain Sterling? The problem is every single one of his wins has been with an asterisk. And even then, if you want to look at his Henry Cejudo fight, a lot of people thought he lost that fight. In my opinion, that fight was so close where I didn't know what to think at the end of it. There were close rounds, and I was like, anybody could have won that fight. However, he's proved himself. He can hang with guys like Jan. He can hang with the top of the division. But Aljamain Sterling, man, there's just... it's unfortunate to say. And I promise you with all my heart, I'm not doing this with, like... because it's Aljamain Sterling. There's just been too much controversy in his wins. And he hasn't had the same run. He hasn't even gotten the title. He got the title from getting kneed. You know what I mean? I have to throw him in the D tier. I promise to God, guys, I'm not doing this. I'm not just hopping on the Aljamain Sterling hate wagon, okay? I feel bad for a lot of people just hate dogging on Aljamain Sterling. I made a whole video talking about how it's unfair what everybody's doing to him right now with Sean O'Malley, okay? They're just, when thinking about all of these fighters matching up together, if everybody was the same weight, if everybody together were to fight in one tournament, one division, Aljamain Sterling might be the guy to go first. But again, you're on the pound for pound list. That is something so special. I'm not saying the D tier is a bad fighter, okay? I need you guys to understand that. Now, brand new champion Alejandro Pantoja. Where am I going to throw Pantoja? Obviously, he has to go in front of Moreno, right? Obviously, beat the guy 3 times. He's looked really good, man. He's really good everywhere. I actually like that for him. I like it right in front of Brandon Moreno because I don't believe he beat Leon Edwards. Now, lastly on the list, Alex Pereira. He has the Jamal Hill effect. The inexperience, however, there's a difference when we watch Jamal Hill and when we watch Alex Pereira fight. And the reason that I'm comparing them is, of course, because of their experience level. Both of them got champions very early into their MMA career. Both of them are very good fighters. Both of them are very powerful. However, I believe Alex has a better skill set. And even, like, the dude's huge. The dude's really strong. This is tough. Okay, because, like, let's say, like, he fights to one of these 3 guys, right? The ground option would certainly be there. But this dude, even no matter what, like, size everybody is, he has that nuclear power, those amazing leg kicks, that amazing striking. I gotta throw Alex Pereira right in front of Kamaru Usman. I believe that's where it is right now. Again, Usman, if you want to take a look at Usman, guys, like a few years ago, Usman would be A tier. It just seems so weird for me taking a look at all of those fighters, you know, and I feel bad that Aljamain's all the way down there, man. I feel really bad about it. But again, this is the pound for pound list. These are the greatest fighters right now. So as it stands out, I would put Volkanovski, John Jones, Islam Makhachev, Charles Oliveira, Israel Adesanya, Dustin Poirier, Max Holloway, Yuri Prochazka, Leon Edwards, Alejandro Pantoja, Brandon Moreno, Alex Pereira, Kamaru Usman, Jamal Hill, Aljamain Sterling. Now let me read for you the order of the pound for pound list as it sits. It has Alexander Volkanovski tied at number 1. So I agree with that. Besides, I believe that Volkanovski stands out to Jones. It should be a clear 1 and a clear 2 in my opinion. Then it moves on to Islam Makhachev, which I have the same. But then it has Leon Edwards. After that is Israel Adesanya, then Aljamain Sterling, then Charles Oliveira, Kamaru Usman, Pantoja, Prochazka, Alex Pereira, Holloway, Dustin Poirier, Jamal Hill, and then finally Brandon Moreno. So I have mixed this up a lot. I have made it look very different. Let me know what you think, guys. Let me know what you think. I'm actually quite happy with this list. I don't believe there's anybody I would like to move around here. Again, think about all of these guys being in the same size, having a tournament. Who's going to come out on top? Where would you rank these fighters? Where would you rank their skill sets? Let me know what you thought about this down below, and thank you so much for watching this video. If you are new here and you enjoyed, please consider hitting the like button, help out the channel a ton, and subscribe if you are brand new. If you'd like to continue watching the Clen channel, the Clenbat channel, there will be 2 videos on screen for you right now. One chose by me, the second YouTube thinks that you would like. Either way, I will see you there, guys, or in the next video. Take care.